Welcome to Game Savers Podcast, your next-gen gaming podcast for news, reviews, previews, impressions, analyses, and roundtable discussions involving past, present, and future games. My name is Tony Morris, and today I'm joined by my co-host.
I'm Wayne, and I love video games.
You know it, folks. All right, so this is going to be the most informal podcast we've ever done, flying by the seat of our pants here. We're just going to talk about anything and everything. It's the week of December 4th, 2020. We're a few days away from Cyberpunk. We've been playing a ton of games this holiday season. There's so much news, so many games to play, so much going on in the year that is 2020. But Wayne, why don't we just dive right into this? Obviously, we're coming off the heels of Black Friday. Did you go out and buy anything video game related, anything crazy?
I didn't. I done some Christmas shopping. That's all I done. So I seen a few things that I thought the girlfriend would like and the family would like, and I purchased those. And they arrived a day later, and I've wrapped them already. And I'm this is the first time I've ever wrapped a Christmas present before it's even December.
Whoa.
I mean, I've still loads to do, but a wee bit of organization this year. I guess with no excuse. You know, it's a crazy year. So what else are you going to be doing?
What else are we doing? We're at home.
Get your Christmas shopping in. Yeah. So I used Black Friday for some of that, and actually bought myself a smart plug because I bought myself an Apple HomePod recently. So I've started using Siri a lot more, and just saying, "Hey Siri, play Hatebreed."
Yeah, a lot of
it's gonna do it. I probably.
Oh, here she goes. Siri's in the background.
This is us getting copyright struck.
I mean, outside of that, so Black Friday just came up and hit us right in the face. I didn't go out and get anything. I'd already was lucky enough to land the consoles, but I see there's still a ton of frustrated people out there that are getting scalped left and right to, land a PS5 or a new Xbox, whatever it may be.
Did you hear about the scalper group in the UK?
The one where they bought like 1,000 of them and then they ended up
3,500 PlayStation 5s. 3,500. They then came out just a few days ago and said they got another 1,000. And it turned out that 1,000 came from, there's a website here called very.co.uk.
Yep.
And as soon as Very heard that they were boasting about it, they were able to target the orders and cancel them all.
So they found these scalpers and they were like, we're canceling all your orders.
The scalpers actually got screwed over. That's kind of
justice.
It's a bit of a good news story that we kind of need at the minute, So I thought that was cool. That was really cool.
That really is. That's got to be the most beautiful thing I've heard so far in 2020 is that there's finally some justice for the scalpers out there. I've heard some great stories out there about that, and I don't want to spend the entire day ragging on scalpers, but man, I mean, just the creativity out here. There's people that have been on Reddit saying, hey, I've been out there connecting with people on Facebook Marketplace, trying to arrange to go pick it up, like, maybe a 30-minute, hour-long drive, and then no-show them. Which, okay, big time waster, that's good. But some people have gone above and beyond and actually, tried to organize things where two scalpers will go out and meet each other. Yes. Where he's like, hey, you come meet me here, you come meet me here. And then it's just two scalpers standing in a parking lot like, hey, are you here to buy this? No, I thought you were. Oh.
Yes. Absolutely brilliant. And then some guy sitting in a car watching it going, I do think that's fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah. I would love to see that. I wonder, are there any videos online of people that have done that?
There's got to be parking lot security camera footage somewhere of this happening. I would only hope. But we've got a stacked show today, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna hit the ground running on about every topic that's come out here in the last couple of weeks and what's coming up this month. But to give you a bit of a preview of what's coming up in the future of Game Savers, we've got 4 or 5 episodes planned out that you're gonna hear here for the remainder of 2020 and early 2021. So stick around for those. That's going to include the 2020 Game of the Year awards from yours truly here at Game Savers. We'll also have a retro analyses episode. We're not sure what that's going to entail just yet, but we will have another retro analysis coming this month, hopefully before Christmas. We'll go ahead and break down the newest Call of Duty, Black Ops Cold War, and see if that's worth jumping ship over from Modern Warfare. So if you're someone that still hasn't spent that $60, $70, now $70, oh my gosh, on the new Call of Duty and you still don't know if you want to do it yet, hey, we've got both of them and we'll kind of help guide you along the way there. But then we'll also have our 2021 gaming wish list episode and what we hope to see from the future of gaming, because 2020 has been such a good year for us. But That's what the future looks like for now. So I guess let's talk a little bit about the present. We're 6 days off now, 7 days. I can't do math. 8 days now. By the time this episode comes out, 6, 5, whatever, for Cyberpunk 2077. Oh my gosh, it's finally here.
Yeah. The hype has been a bit odd because for a lot of people, the hype's been building and building and building, delay after delay, but still really, really excited to get hands on for this game. But I'm actually getting a little bit of detecting that some people are kind of, I don't think losing interest is the right word, but definitely a little bit deflated. And they're getting to the point where like sort of they just can't contain the hype and the excitement anymore.
I think you're right on that, because I'm one of those where I'm trying to like downplay the hype, and I'm trying to say like, oh, there's going to be something bad here. Like, the melee looks like crap or whatever the case may be. It looks great, and I'm trying to stay away from gameplay footage, but I just can't. And I'm trying not to get so hyped up that I'm disappointed, because that's the last thing you want with a game you've been waiting 8 years for,
The videos that come out so far, I've been watching ones where it just kind of shows off maybe the graphics or how things look. I've been trying to avoid anything that contains anything about the characters or the story, that sort of thing. I did hear one interesting story. There was a lot of journalists recently got 16 hours of gameplay. And one of the things a friend kind of freaked out about was one of them said that they were 7 hours into the game before they shot anyone, before there was any action, any combat. And my friend was like, that was a big, massive turn off for him. He was reeling away going, 7 hours. Whereas I'm thinking, holy crap, that's 7 hours of lore, 7 hours of character development, 7 hours of story and world building. And I have no problem with that. I am totally happy if it's the kind of game that has all quality of all those things I mentioned: the world, the atmosphere, the characters, the story, the lore, the background. If all of that is in check and all of it's really, really good, I'm happy to play for 7 hours without lifting a gun, without a doubt. But it might have been the choices that player happened to make, and they just didn't go down the route where you're going around killing people.
I was going to say that there, you've got 3 different classes there to choose from right out of the get go, right? That determines your entire beginning, and from what I understand, a good chunk of your playthrough afterwards. But there's so many individual choices, it looks like, in that game. If that's influencing it one way or the other, then you could have a pretty, I guess, stealthy or non-actionable playthrough in the beginning. So hopefully that's just that one guy, but
very possibly.
And I'm not expecting a World War III shooter out there from this or by any means, but still, Cyberpunk, a few days away, can't wait. I mean, maybe we chat about that in the next episode if we get it in our hands. I know I
think we could do a brief early impressions. Once we're maybe 10, 20 hours in. We could sit down and talk about what we think of it so far.
If the Game Savers family wants it, the Game Savers family gets it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of other stuff going on out there too in the world. Did you see Xbox? It was today. They kind of started putting out the information that they're adding a few more games to Game Pass, more than the 10 million that are currently out there.
There was some stuff excited me. There was some stuff I have to admit I was a little disappointed at. And one of those was they are adding Control to Games Pass, but there's been a bit of shenanigans with Control. There was the original version on the Xbox One, and unless you bought the Ultimate Edition of Control, then you didn't get your Series X upgrade. It was only the Ultimate Edition that was getting the Series X upgrade. And of course, what versions come with the game Control? It's the old basic one. So if you want to play the best version of Control and you've got an Xbox Series X, you still have to buy it.
And that's a shame, because that's such a huge game to come out here in the last couple of years from Microsoft. And if that didn't make sense to anybody, basically, if you don't get the ultimate version of this game, then you're not going to be able to play it on Game Pass. If you want to play it on Game Pass, you're getting the basic version. But that's not just DLC and extra and things like that. This is like the upgraded actual what would be an upscaled version, you would think. That they're holding back, which I would hope Microsoft makes amends on that and does the right thing after hearing about that from so many people. But I guess we'll see. Game Pass is getting kind of weird. I was going through that list today and I saw there was Control, there was Rage 2, there was Dragon Quest 11, which is an incredible JRPG, by the way. If anybody here over on the Western Hemisphere hasn't played that game, please do. It's amazing. Those are all coming out, but you see this list of games that's coming, and some of them are on Xbox, some of them are on PC, some are on both, but they're not all coming in one way or another. That's unified. So it's kind of a weird launch, and I don't know.
I don't know if you spotted this, but it's not just PC and Xbox that's mentioned. They're now listing Android.
I saw that Android
as a platform. So
what is up with that?
Because I was surprised when I seen Rage 2, because initially I thought Rage 2 is already on Game Pass, right. And then whenever I looked at it, it's being added, the PC version and the Android version. It's basically xCloud is what they're referring to. So it's the cloud streaming Xbox platform, and of course it's not on iOS yet, but it's on Android. So they're listing that as Android. Now that seems strange to me. I thought they would have just listed it as xCloud.
Right.
But they're specifically saying Android. And again, it's Microsoft saying that Xbox is a platform and it's available to play almost anywhere, you know. It really, really, really isn't just about owning a box that lives under your TV anymore, you know. They're really driving that home.
I can see that getting pretty complicated here quick, because I also saw, in addition to the games coming to Game Pass, there's also those that are going away from Game Pass. Yes. And that looks pretty, there weren't any major titles that were going to be losing off Game Pass. I mean, a lot of these are, you know, mid-party or something like that, but so most I haven't even heard of, to be honest. But those that are leaving, you see some are leaving on PC, some are only leaving on Xbox, some are going to stay on Game Pass, some are leaving depending on their format. So it just looks like that could be such a mess going forward. I just hope they keep that unified and simple for everybody. But as it is right now, it looks like that's going to get pretty complicated.
There is one thing worth remembering. Whenever a game's leaving Game Pass, if a game is on Game Pass and you want to buy it to keep digitally, of course, there's always a discount. I think there's something like a 20% discount on any game that's on Game Pass if you want to buy it to keep. So, and they always give you a heads up. I mean, games aren't just dropping off out of nowhere. They're always saying, you know, this game's going to finish in another month. So that gives you time to finish the game or to decide to buy it or whatever. So I think in that regard, they are doing as much as they can.
Speaking of subscription services, have you seen Sony kind of tease in a little bit in an interview about maybe having an answer to Game Pass? They haven't said if that's utilizing PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Now or an upgrade or something completely different. But hey, I'm all for that, because that PlayStation Plus collection as it is right now is incredible.
Yeah. I think if they want to do it, if they truly want to compete with Game Pass, then they would need to put all first-party titles day one on their subscription service, right? But currently, Sony's first-party lineup is 10 times what Microsoft's are. You know,
it's huge. Yeah. So, I mean, right now you've got you got Days Gone, Uncharted. You've got there's so many others I'm forgetting right now. That's just what I've got installed on my PS4 or PS5 because that's all I got room for right now. But God of War.
I can't see them including those games, because those games are system sellers and those games are huge games that people will go out and buy in day one and pre-order. If they were to put those games, as you say, Uncharted, God of War, Bloodborne, all those games, if they were to put that on a subscription service, I think it would be twice the cost of what Game Pass would to make up for it, because you're not comparing apples and apples here. You know, the first party lineups are there's a big contrast between them.
You can't compare Gears of War to what's out there on Sony right now. And I won't get into the Halo argument because I'm a Halo guy. Yeah. But
yeah, I mean, even now, it still baffles people, experts, people who know as much about video games as you possibly can, still look at Game Pass and go, how is that financially viable? How is that a business model? How does that work?
Especially those day one launches. You think of like
absolutely
Doom and stuff like that came out, you know, as soon as it's out, it's on subscription service. Like that's a AAA game. That took some money to make.
Yeah. So I don't know. Sony's saying that they're going to come up with something to compete. They kind of already do have something that competes. PlayStation Now is a similar service to Game Pass. It just doesn't have those day one AAA titles the way Game Pass does. And I just don't know if that's feasible for Sony.
Yeah, maybe they consolidate the two. I don't know. There's so many things they could do, but I guess we'll hopefully find out soon. It'd be a good time to announce it. I know PlayStation 5
Definitely.
just came out, so
Yeah, yeah.
outside of that, what have you been playing, brother Wayne? I feel like I haven't given Nintendo enough love on this show. So to compensate for that, a few days ago, I went out and none of these were on sale on Black Friday, but I still bought them that same weekend. And I went out and bought Pikmin 3. Finally got the new Hyrule Warriors, Age of Calamity over there for Zelda. Missing something here from that lineup, I'm pretty sure. Oh, finally, the new Mario 35th anniversary. And I've got all those in my hand now. I owe it to the fine people of Nintendo to get in there and play some of those games. But wow, I can't believe I've been missing some of those just because we've been so busy with the new console releases here in the last couple of months.
Yeah, yeah. I've been playing Assassin's Creed. I'm 30 hours in
Valhalla, right?
Valhalla, and I have to confess I'm not particularly enjoying it.
Wow. And how many hours have you put into that series? Because I know you. I mean, every time I log on to Xbox, brother Wayne's chucking away on this game.
I mean, we're about 12 games deep, I think, at the minute. And I would say,
Yeah.
I mean, the early games were 20, 30 hours. The newer games, they're all 100 plus, without a doubt. I would say I must have put 500 hours in total into the Assassin's Creed series.
Oh.
And I think it is an element of just tired of massive maps absolutely covered in icons, which just become chores of things to do. We've talked about Witcher 3. The side missions in The Witcher 3, people have said to me, dozens of people have said this, the side missions in The Witcher 3 are as good as the main story. They're all interesting, they're all worth doing, they're all involving. Some of the side missions in Assassin's Creed Valhalla are some of the worst side missions I have ever played in a game. And I'll give you an example. I don't think this is a spoiler. I don't think anyone's going to be bugged if they hear about this. There's you come across a little girl and she's standing in front of a tree and there's a single leaf hanging on the tree, and she says, "My daddy went away to get a job, and he said he would be back before all the leaves fall off the tree." And you go,
Oh.
"All right, okay." And there's nothing you can do except for hit the tree and make the leaf fall off. And then the little girl's like, I guess daddy's not coming back then.
Well.
And that's it. And I'm baffled. And the acting of the side missions is nowhere near on par with the main story. I don't want to sit here and rant about Valhalla for the next 15 minutes.
Well, hopefully things improve by the towards the latter end of that game. Yeah, man, that's rough.
I think part of it's my own fault because I've really got this. I'm a completionist when it comes to video games. So when I go into an area, I want to do every side quest and every collectible in that area before I move on.
I see your achievement collection. That's right.
So I'm kind of forcing myself to do these things that I'm not enjoying, and I maybe should just push on with the story and get on with it, you know. But
yeah,
as I say, 30 hours in, someone told me it was about 70 hours in total. There is no way I'm near halfway. Not even close.
How about that? I hear of some people just spending up to 10 hours in that first little area, and I haven't looked at it a lot because I'm trying to hold back on Valhalla for at least a couple of weeks till we get into the holidays. And I guess we're already in the holidays, but closer to Christmas anyway. I want to spend some time with Cyberpunk. I want to spend some time with all the other 500 games. I'm currently dying 6,000 times a day in Demon Souls. So I got to be able to enjoy that first. But gosh, other games you're playing. I've been playing a lot of the Demon Souls, like we just mentioned. And
how's that going? Because that's your first Souls game, is that right?
It is. It is my first Souls game ever. So, you know, I came into this, you know, already kind of knowing, and I think everyone's aware at this point, if you haven't played like Sekiro or, you know, Dark Souls, previously the Demon Souls that came out back in the, you know, late 2000s, you expect to die a lot. You expect it to be a tough game. And I came in knowing that and tried to set the bar pretty low for my frustration levels. And it's been pretty good. It hasn't been as terrifying as I thought it'd be. I think I've died somewhere close to 100 times by now. I'd bet. I haven't looked at the actual statistics on that, but I've put about 12 hours into the new Demon Souls. I've got up to the second or third boss at this point. The structure of the game, I find it really interesting. In the sense that you don't go through an entire world at once and then just, you know, hey, you're on to the next world. I'll get halfway through this first world, go back into what's called the Nexus, like your home area, and then go play part of another world in the game that's maybe darker or harder. So I can level up there, then go back to this area, beat this boss. So it's structured a lot differently from games I'm used to playing, where you're used to going from world to world, level to level, whatever the case may be, mission to mission. But I really do enjoy it. It's tough. It's rewarding. You know, when you messed up, it's your fault. But it does leave very, very little room for error, which can be tough sometimes.
I do think I'll give it a go. I've always been put off the Demon Soul games. I was put off Bloodborne. I think I'll give this one a crack if I manage to get my hand on a PS5 in 2022 or whenever it's going to be.
2022, yeah. Let's see when we can get our hands on those again.
Yeah.
Hopefully, gosh.
I imagine a load of people have traded in by that stage and will be able to get it for about 15, 20 pounds or so. Yeah. And then if I give up after 15 minutes, at least I haven't lost out too much.
Right. It's totally worth it.
I think I'll commit and give that one a go. Definitely.
Good. Fire away. Yeah. Other games I've been playing, gosh, Warzone. Still playing a ton of that lately because Call of Duty just can't let it go. I know it came out in March of last year, but I have been pouring some hours. Not getting a lot of what we call dubs in the Warzone world, unfortunately, but hey, it is what it is. So just looking forward to seeing how that evolves over the next few months with Cold War being out now, and wishing for the best. What else you been playing?
You're sick of hearing me talk about this. Tetris. I'm still hammering away at Tetris.
We still haven't played it together. I see you playing it online all the time. My God.
It's just so easy. You know, stuff like Assassin's Creed or Demon's Soul or any of those big games, you know, if you've 10 or 15 minutes, there's no point putting it on. Tetris, you can just stick it on, have a quick blast. I've now got, because I got the new Xbox Series X and it's in the living room, Claire got one as well. We've now got the Xbox One X is in my study and the old Xbox One is in the bedroom. So we've got an Xbox in almost every room in the house. Tetris is installed on them all. So it doesn't matter where I am. If I've got 10 minutes, I can just bang on quick blast of Tetris. And it's the best game ever made.
It really is a good Tetris because when you sold this to me, didn't sell it, but like, you know, figuratively selling it to me like, hey, go buy this. I was like, okay, fine. I'll finally download it and give it a shot. And just wasn't expecting a Tetris game to be as good as this one was because I'm just not into puzzle games and stuff like that. If you could even call it that. But this was actually really enjoyable to play on an Xbox, and the way they've formatted this game, the approach they've taken to it is insane.
The soundtrack is brilliant. I've actually got the soundtrack on Apple Music, so whenever I'm sitting working here during the day, I would stick that on random. There's about 40 songs on it, and about 35 of them are very, very good.
It'll put you in a trance.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of that new Tony Hawk, the new Pro Skater 1 and 2 Underground remaster, and wow, I got to play it when it came out, just not as long as I wanted to because at the time you had like Ghost of Tsushima, so many other games, Crash Bandicoot 4. It didn't get the time to give it what it deserved, but wow, it's such a good remaster. And the soundtrack, speaking of that, is incredible. And that it took me back to the days of Rage Against the Machine, Dead Kennedys, so many other good bands that are represented in that game. And especially with some of those newer punk bands, I guess if you can call them that, you know, like that late 90s, early 2000s punk era. You'd have to wonder if some of their careers would even exist if not for this Tony Hawk game, because wow, it's just that good and noticeable.
I think that's pretty much all I've been playing. Tetris and Assassin's Creed. I don't know if are you aware of Xbox Rewards?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I dip in and out of little games to get my reward points. So I have a few things lined up that I'm going to give a try. I never played Final Fantasy. Was it 15?
Yep, 15 is the newer one. Yep.
Yeah, I never tried that. And there's get 75 Microsoft points if you beat 10 enemies in that. So I'm gonna fire that up and give that a blast. And
let us know how it goes, because Final Fantasy 15, I got halfway in and just couldn't finish it because it is a pretty chunky game.
Yeah.
But wow. Speaking of Japanese style games like that, Persona 5 got into that a little bit recently too, which is, I don't know if I'd call it a full-blown JRPG, but it's definitely got, the Japan influence in there as well. Does seem very RPG-ish so far in the game, and what an incredible game this is. I'd always seen it got killer reviews and things like that. Finally saw it on sale and was like, oh, I'll give it a go, and it's hooked me hard. I'm afraid I'm going to put 200 hours into this game before the time it's all said and done.
The art style's fantastic. It's like a sort of like manga comic book.
Yeah.
And yeah, even the options, I remember seeing reviews of it, and it shows, like the screen where you're just like choosing options or start game and all that, and it's got all these things that are flying across the screen. Yeah. Aesthetically, it looks absolutely superb, but it's turn-based combat, and I just
It's a
can't even
no
go
from
there.
Wayne.
I can't go there. I can't. Although I was gonna give what's the new Yakuza game? Is turn-based
Yeah, yeah.
combat? Is it Yakuza Enter the Dragon? Yakuza
I bel
something Dragon.
yeah.
I was going to give that a go because I had it in my head it was coming to Game Pass, but no, it's £60, and I'm not paying £60 on a turn-based RPG. It's just not. It's not happening.
I can't blame you. I cannot blame you.
Um, December games coming up. We've already talked about Cyberpunk. There's another game coming out called Call of the Sea.
Ooh, yes.
And I thought I'd give it a mention. This one is on Game Pass, and it's by a company called Out of the Blue Games. It's set in the 1940s, and it's set on like an island, and it's basically just story, dialogue, and puzzles and adventure. There's no combat or anything like that, and those games, providing they're short, like if they're 6, 7, 8 hours long, I love things like that. I think they can be really, really good
Ooh.
distractions. If you're in the middle of like a 100-hour RPG and you've poured 50 hours into it, and you just need something short as a quick distraction to sort of, let the palate kind of be reflavored, if that's even an
Yeah,
expression.
you could say that. Get some diversity in there. Yeah, sometimes you play the same
Yeah.
game. You get 100 hours into it, and I get that. You do need a break from time to time,
Yeah.
whether it be from gaming or just getting a different game in there.
So something like that. Yeah, it looks really, really good. The art style and stuff. So I'm definitely going to give that a go. There's another game, Twin Mirror, is out this month. It's by Don't Nod Studios. It is another story narrative driven game, but it's by the people that done Life is Strange, and I can't remember the name of the last game they done. I can't remember. It's gone past me.
It's gone.
But it looks interesting. It seems to be about this guy who has mental issues, and then keeps going into like what they refer to as his mind palace. And it looks kind of weird and trippy and stuff. But I'm interested in that. I definitely want to give that a go.
Sounds like some HP Lovecraft vibes, which
Possibly,
I'm all about.
Yeah.
There's another game that came out this month. Actually, I think it's coming out here in just a few minutes. But Immortals: Phoenix Rising, coming from Ubisoft. So
that's a weird one, I think, because it is by the guys that done Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Yep.
I don't know if everyone knows, but all the Assassin's Creed games aren't done by the same team. There's multiple teams within Ubisoft, and they seem to take in turns to tackle on Assassin's Creed game. The team that done Odyssey, which was the Greek Assassin's Creed game, is now doing a cartoony Greek Zelda style game.
I was gonna say, are you gonna call it Zelda Breath of the Wild ripoff?
It's impossible. Or... It's impossible not to. I mean, I know that
there's no dancing around that. It does look very much like Breath of the Wild.
It's a lazy comparison, but it's impossible not to make that comparison because even just look at the grass, the style of the grass, the colors, the way the scenery pops. It just looks like Breath of the Wild. But I haven't seen any reviews yet, and I don't know. I still don't know what kind of game it is.
So I played this game. I streamed it very briefly because I just could not get into it for the life of me. I can't remember if it was a beta or if it was something you got from registering for the Google Stadia platform, but it was some kind of promotion. You were able to play this game way early, and ended up playing through it, and just I couldn't really get the feel of it. It didn't blow me away. It wasn't fun. It wasn't bad. I'm sure there's going to be people out there that enjoy it, but if you're someone that's already played Breath of the Wild and you're looking for more of it, this probably isn't going to be fulfilling enough for you. I didn't feel a connection to anything in the game when I was playing, whether it was, the inventory, the weapons, the characters, just the enemies. Nothing really clicked for me. I just could not get over the sense that it felt like a Breath of the Wild ripoff. It did feel like the first time Ubisoft has ever figured out what bright colors look like, though, because that was by far, I don't know why that stood out to me. It's the most colorful game I think Ubisoft has ever made, outside of the Far Cry series. But yeah, that it just didn't strike too heavy with me for Immortals Phoenix Rising, but I'm still going to give it a try. Not immediately when it comes out here this week, but I am going to spin that up probably here in a couple months when the depths of winter begin to take hold.
Yeah. Apart from that, there's not a whole lot of releases in December, and I think that is down to the fact that Cyberpunk's coming out and no one wants to compete with it.
Everybody get out of the way. Cyberpunk coming through.
There was a bunch of games got pushed back to, February, March for that very reason. And the developers even came out and said it. This is like, we're not launching our game alongside Cyberpunk because we'll just get, we'll disappear in the obscurity. No one.
Which maybe if you think about it, this is the best chain of events to happen for 2021, because the 2021, as far as games that are coming out early and mid 2021, there's not a lot out there that's been confirmed. Sure, I think Resident Evil 8 might be on the horizon. People have said back and forth on, but there's no hard date on that. And even then, I don't have full faith that games like that are going to come out early 2021.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is now. Sure, we get some February releases. It's kind of like music. You get some of that in the early winter, but that stuff doesn't really start picking up till spring. You've got the summer drought, and then you've got the holidays, which is where everybody wants to release for video games, right?
Yeah. That Resident Evil one, a lot of people are saying April. I just cannot see it. I think even if we get an April release date, I think it'll be pushed back to fall, because fall is just, that September to November.
Yeah.
That's when the big games come out. That's when things sell well, and I think it'll be held off than that.
It's hard to see too, because I know here in 2020, again, just such a weird year for game releases, delays. You think of the indie games that have come out here that have just taken us by a storm, and that might be partially to the drought of video games that come out during the summer and things like that. You think of Among Us, you think of Fall Guys and the success there. Sure, they're great games, but do you think they would have caught fire like that if, Ghost of Tsushima and other games came out the same week? Absolutely not. They would have been buried and swept to the side. Or maybe that's arguable, but
no, I think there's an element of truth to that. Yeah, I think it was a good time for indie games. As you say, big games being pushed back, a bit of a drought, and then that sort of a push for social games at the minute, I think, helped things like Fall Guys and especially Among Us. People who can't see their friends, but they can go online and play with them. That sort of thing. Definitely.
Speaking of fall, I think we talked about this the other day, you and I did offline, but I don't think there's anything worse in the holidays that hits me harder every single year than when I buy a game that's on sale. Like, let's just say, for example, a recent Nintendo game that dropped down to $15 that I bought for Black Friday last year for $45, and I never played it, and it stayed in my backlog. So I basically lost out on that. And what is that, a $30 difference? I mean, I could have saved all this money if I just waited another year, because I haven't even played it yet.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a lesson learned here for the holidays, is to wait until you're ready to play the damn game.
Yeah, it's not even the sales that hit me hard. It's Game Pass. The amount of games that I have bought, thinking that I'm getting a deal. I'll buy this, it's on sale. Two that come to mind are Observer, that I've talked about in the podcast, and Jedi Fallen Order.
Yep.
Both of those are games that I paid for and then got announced for Game Pass. And with Observer, I think I started playing it something like 2 days before it hit Game Pass. I knew it was coming to Game Pass, but it was a principle thing. It was like, I'm going to play this now because it's not on Game Pass right now, so I am getting money's worth for playing it.
Oh my god!
But I was gutted about that. Jedi Fallen Order. I played half of it on PlayStation because someone loaned me it, and I gave it back. And I said, I'll buy it on Xbox. Bought it, and it's just sat there. Same thing. Squadrons. My girlfriend bought me Squadrons about a month ago. I'm holding off because I want to play it with the proper sort of like flight sim controller type thing.
Oh, okay. The stick.
But I just know it's going to get added to EA. Is it EA Access, which is now part of Game Pass?
Yep.
So I need to get playing that game before it's free and try and get some money. Try and get some money's worth out of it.
Get your value, Wayne.
We all do it though. We all sit there, and you're sitting at home with, Jedi Fallen Order, Resident Evil 2 and 3, just a bunch more games, and then you go out and you go, I'm going to buy that. And
like, why?
Why are we buying games? You wouldn't go out and buy a load of food if your fridge was full of fresh food.
But what is grocery shopping? I can say, maybe this is part of that, because I come home every week and I throw away probably $10-15 of vegetables because just for whatever reason, I buy greens to feel like I'm eating healthy, but I throw them away as soon as I get home. And not only that, but I think of like Steam, PC. This is the one that absolutely murders me year round, because I fell for it again this year, and I will continue to do it the rest of my life for Lord Gaben. So for those of you who don't know, Mr. Gabe Newell over there at Valve, but that sale comes up every year, and I keep buying all these old games. Like I think Morrowind, I rebought it for PC. I probably bought that on every platform at this point that it's ever been released on, but I buy full series. Like if I think of the Elder Scrolls series, if that's on sale, like Oblivion, Morrowind, Fallouts, I'll just buy them all at once on a Steam sale, and then I never touch them. I never play them. I've got like an 18% completion rate on Steam out of like 300 or 400 games I've got in that library by now. Like what is happening?
It's not even like, back when you used to have a shelf and you'd have all your PS2 games all lined up and they've all got the matching, spine, and it just looks nice because that's your collection. That's your collection. Nowadays we're buying these games and we don't even have a collection. We don't even have anything to show for it. Yet we're still spending probably hundreds of pounds or dollars on games whenever we've got games already sitting there. Are we just suckers?
I think we're suckers. We've got some serious first world problems. I know that.
Yeah,
good Lord. Yeah. I mean,
we're talking to a man. I think I own something like 200 t-shirts, so I'm no stranger to excess. Whew.
I open the closet, just nothing but band shirts.
I literally bought a t-shirt the other day, and you can't see, but right now there is literally a pile of t-shirts sitting to the left of me because I don't have anywhere to put all my t-shirts, and I'm still buying more. And yeah,
man,
I don't know why we're talking about that, but there you go.
It's a first world problem. It really is.
We said it at the start. It's the most casual, laid back podcast we've done. So
we're literally hoarding.
That's why we're talking about my t-shirts.
We're hoarding everything, whether it's groceries, t-shirts, video games, especially. It seems to be the big one, just because they cost the most now. But who knows what the future holds in that aspect. What else is going on out there in the gaming world? There's a ton.
Okay, there's been a lot of kick up. I don't know if you followed this stuff on Twitter, but there's been a big kick up about the performance that the Xbox Series X is putting out, especially compared to the PlayStation 5.
You mean how PS5 is outperforming it?
To a degree, yes. And let's not go down the road of fanboyism, because we're both better than that. But the Digital Foundry are basically the forerunners at the minute of comparing graphical fidelity,
right,
resolution, outputs, frame rate, all that. They've got the tools. They can measure all this stuff, and they can put out not honest opinions, but facts of how these games are running and how they compare on the two consoles.
Great website, by the way, if you're looking to go out there and buy graphics cards and stuff like that. I know the 3000 series just dropped out there for graphics cards on PC. And if you just want to know how this runs things, or if yours is going to hold up, or if you need to upgrade, Digital Foundry is the way to go. So sorry to throw that plug in there for them, but man,
the guys are exceptional at what they do, and they don't have a horse in this race. They're not out to try and prove that one console runs better than the other, but they put their comparison out of the first release of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and there are points in it where the PlayStation runs better than the Xbox Series X. In fact, there's more points where it runs better on the PlayStation 5. And a lot of people literally just went off on Twitter and attacked these guys and accused them of all sorts of things, of shilling for Microsoft and shilling for PlayStation. And then they done an update video because there was version 1.04 of Assassin's Creed Valhalla came out. And it slightly improved the Xbox version, but it actually made the PlayStation version worse. And then a lot of these people on Twitter who just, don't have a grasp on reality, they theorized and firmly believed that Microsoft paid Ubisoft to nerf the PlayStation version, to make it run worse so that the Xbox One was the better one.
So I'll say this. So from a business perspective, right? Let's say I'm Ubisoft, okay?
Mhm.
And I know that right now, or let's just look at the last generation. We'll just take it for an example because we know, and it's a hard fact. We know that the PlayStation has outsold the Xbox tremendously, right?
The, the,
If I've got one game coming out on both of those consoles, where am I going to dedicate most of my time and resources to make sure that the updates run better and make sure the games run better?
yeah,
Where the most people are playing it, the PlayStation.
that's what a lot of people are saying, and to me, that is a more a legitimate point of view and a legitimate argument that they are primarily developing this thing on PlayStation because, as you say, there's more of those out in the wild, and then they're kind of like, okay, we've got it run there, make it run on the Xbox, and I know that's really, really simplifying the world of video game development, but I think that's kind of what's happening. But they done another video. They compared Call of Duty, and they used the campaign. And within Call of Duty on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, there is a ton of options. Well, I say a ton. Compared to PC, there's probably not. But for console gamers, you don't normally get things like, do you want to prioritize quality? Do you want to prioritize performance? Do you want to turn ray tracing on or off? But all that's in there on Call of Duty. And with ray tracing on, the Xbox was outperforming the PlayStation. With ray tracing off, the PlayStation was outperforming the Xbox.
How weird.
And now, when I say they're outperforming, we're talking, one sitting at a steady 60 frames per second, while the other one's maybe sitting at 60 and occasionally dropping to 59 or 58.
It's a big deal.
It's minuscule. It is so minuscule. But the difference is there, and people will use that as my plastic box is better than your plastic box.
Right.
But as I say, they said that in certain areas, Xbox is better, in certain areas, PlayStation is better. And both sides came out and they just went for it again on Twitter.
Yeah,
you guys are shills for Microsoft, you guys are shills for PlayStation. And it's mental. I think Phil Spencer actually came out and said that this sort of tribalistic attitudes within the video game world is literally the worst part of video games.
Yeah, it is horribly tribal, isn't it? I mean, I can't take another industry and compare it. You've got sports, which I guess is a big one, your different teams, but I mean, that's understandable. I mean, video games, come on, we're all in the same boat, right? Especially when you're talking about third-party titles where you can play it on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, sometimes the Switch too. Like, it's just not even worth arguing about. I think it's too early in this generation to be able to say like, hey, oh yeah, this one's running, a few frames faster per second. Say this one's definitively more powerful. It's so early on. The developers have had like no time to make these games. I mean, they've had time, but they haven't had time to really go through and like really fine tune them just yet. It's hard to say. And then if you think of just right now, the current state, I know back, I think it was midsummer, Sony was giving out their PlayStation dev kits and, are ready to go there on that front. Whereas Microsoft waited till just about a couple months ago, if that.
Mm-hmm.
So they've had a lot more time to work on the PlayStation too. And that aspect, which, hey, props to Sony for just putting that stuff out early. What do you expect? But who knows where this ends up 5, 6, 10 months, 8 years from now, right? It could change.
Those people freaking out. They're saying, the reason I bought Xbox Series X is because you told me it was 12 teraflops compared to, Sony's 10.4. So why isn't my game running best? Why isn't my game running best? It's like these consoles have been out for less than a month. We've got 2 big games to compare on them, and the things are probably going to have a lifespan of 7 years. So let's give it maybe 6 months and see how it plays out before we all lose our mind because because your console dropped 3 frames whenever the other one didn't.
Speaking of updates and performance, how about Nintendo? They recently finally gave a console update, pretty chunky one, this week as well, that just came out I think yesterday, and that's covering a lot of ground too. I don't have all the hard details on it just yet because I haven't fired up my Switch since it came out, but from what I understand, we're able to transfer photos a lot easier. You're able to organize a lot of different things on the home console itself quicker. So that's a plus. They made some online improvements as well, from what I understand. So, hey, all hail Nintendo for that, because that's always a good thing to see from them, because I think out of all these companies out there right now and consoles and, platforms, whatever you want to call it, I think Nintendo's got the most room for improvement by far on their home console / online structuring, because I mean, it's tough right now. It's not bad. I'm not saying Nintendo's online sucks. It's just not as structured as, if you think of like a PlayStation or Xbox or a Steam, where, you're not using friend codes. Your people are in there and you can always invite them, do whatever, etc. And you can do that in some Nintendo games, but for the most part, you can't.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. There's really no unified online, I guess you could call it, system for Nintendo as it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you want to go so far as to say it's bad, but I think I would. I would go so far as to say it's bad. I think it's awkward and it's clumsy, and I've never been impressed with it. I mean, the Wii. Do you remember the Wii had that channel thing where it was like a bunch of television screens?
Yeah,
that was meant to represent each game and your settings, and they've never been good at that. It's a bizarre thing for a company to be so good at making video games and so rubbish at creating user interfaces. And I think they always said it was because of privacy. That's the reason you've got these awkward friend codes that you've got to send people. It's in the interest of privacy, but there's other ways to do that,
Yeah.
I think I don't know. Do they just not care? Is it maybe a culture thing? Well, I was going to say it's a culture thing, but Nintendo are Japanese and Sony are Japanese.
Sony, there you go. Yeah, I mean,
and Sony have it nailed down. They don't have any issues. It's easy to add friends and to find your friends and invite them into games and stuff.
Yeah, I think this up. Oh, God.
I just think Nintendo don't always pay attention to what's going on. I think they're very much in their own world. They're in their own heads. And they're just kind of getting on with doing their own thing. Whereas I know for a fact that Phil Spencer owns a PlayStation and plays games on PlayStation. He tweets and he talks about it. And he's not the sort of guy like we were just talked about the tribalism. He's not the sort of guy that's going to go, I won't play a PlayStation. I don't play a PlayStation because I'm Xbox through and through. He loves games. And if there's a good game on the PlayStation, he'll play that. I kind of get the impression that Nintendo weren't like that. They're kind of like, Xbox, PlayStation, what's that? No, we play Mario and Zelda and Metroid.
Right. And this has been kind of a weird year for Nintendo too. I think this update is at least a step in the right direction too, where hopefully they do flesh out their user interface a little bit more. Again, it's not bad. I just think there's a lot of potential there, especially when you're looking at the new PS5 and Xbox Series X. I mean, you got to have an answer to that at some point. I know the Switch is midway through its console generation, I'm sure, because it came out in 2017. So is that right? 2017, 2016?
Sounds like about right to me. Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Do you think we'll see a Switch Pro, or do you think we'll just see a proper successor?
I think we need to at this point. I don't think Switch needs 4K necessarily, but I think you do need some upgraded power there, at least before the end of this generation. Because I think if Nintendo waits 3 or 4 years from now and does that full life cycle like they did with the Wii, that's a stretch because so much has changed even in the last 3 or 4 years. I think you got to get the Joy-Con drift under control too, because I know that may not be a major issue for a lot of people, but both of my Joy-Cons that I came with stock that I've had for a couple of years are already drifting, and I've tried every home repair you can possibly do and just can't fix it. I went out and bought another one, another set that is for the $70-$80, whatever it costs for a new set of Joy-Cons, and both of those drift now. So maybe I'm just having bad luck, and I like to think I take really, really good care of my consoles. I don't play my Switch in handheld mode as often as I'd like to. I usually play it docked on the TV, so yeah, I'm one of those guys. But again, just to show you, I don't really use, a beating on this thing by any means. It doesn't leave the entertainment center, and still I'm having these issues. So I just don't think they can go another 3 or 4 years without, there being some new iteration of what they've got right now on the Switch.
Do you think they'll stick with this dual handheld, but also connects to a TV sort of system? Or do you think they might revert back to a standard console? Or...
Hard to say. I know we've already got the Switch Lite, which I guess, to mention that, that is kind of an upgrade in the generation, if you want to call it an upgrade. But I don't know. I'd like to see them go back to just primarily console. But this whole handheld convenience thing is nice. I know a lot of people love it. I have so many friends that are just all about that life. Unfortunately, I'm not, because I just don't play games on the go. And that's just how I am. But it'll be interesting to see. What do you think?
I think, they keep switching things up. Oh God, I don't believe I just said that.
So pun, yeah, switching things up on the Switch.
Yeah, but the Wii was like handheld controllers was the gimmick, and then the Wii U came out, and that was this sort of the handheld controllers disappeared. They went away.
Right.
After us being told that that was a revolution in gaming, and we got this odd tablet thing that was always compared to a tablet, um, and then they went full blown. This is a handheld, but it also plugs into your TV, sort of thing.
Right.
And it's just that question of where do they go next? Do they stay on this path? It's Nintendo, and they always throw a spanner in the works, and they always take you by surprise, and it's never what you expect them to do.
Right.
So if someone asked me to put £100 a bet on what Nintendo do next, I would say that they're gonna go for a traditional console, and it'll be
Wow.
something similar to what the PlayStation. It'll be like a PS5 or an Xbox Series X, except it will come out 3 years too late, and it'll be underpowered, but it will be affordable. And I think that's what they'll go for because, as I say, they just always seem to do the opposite of what you expect them to do.
Yeah.
So,
They're
so
a
I
hard one
think,
to predict.
and then they'll probably bring back a new handheld like the Nintendo
So
4DS or
do
something.
you think they're keeping that? I mean, we've seen it for a few generations of them now, between the Wii, obviously not to the extent we see it on the Switch, but do you think they're keeping that, weird kind of gimmicky, almost handheld aspect of the console in play because so much of their fan base, has come to them through playing Game Boys when they were younger, through handheld devices. I know I was one of those where, you grew up with
Yeah.
the Game Boy, Game Boy SP, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, the list goes on there, 3DS, DS, whatever. But do you think they keep that handheld aspect to keep that core base there? Does that keep some people around? Does having that handheld
That's
option?
absolutely. I mean, and I know that you say that you don't play it on the move, and I'm exactly the same. Anytime I play the Switch, it's connected to the TV. I do think we're in the minority. I think that the ability to take it out with you and play it on the plane, train, in the park, whatever, I think that appeals to a lot of people. And
Right.
I think that comes from the, having, as you say, having the Game Boy, having the DS. I think if they go back to a traditional console, I definitely think they'll bring out a handheld thing, a handheld, as I say, a Nintendo 4DS or something new, because I do think that's always been inherent to Nintendo is having that portable game system.
Yeah. And if nothing else, hey, we've already got consoles. At least someone's keeping the handheld fan base happy, right? I mean,
Yeah,
let
yeah.
it be Nintendo. Thank you,
We all
Nintendo.
thought, I mean, when smartphones blew up, I don't think there were many people that didn't sit and go, well, that's it for Nintendo DS. That's it for Game Boy, and it hasn't been the case at all. I think there's a vast chasm between Candy Crush on your phone and playing, a proper Zelda game or a proper Mario game on
Right.
on the Switch or the Nintendo DS.
And you look at some of those former AAA titles that have come out on mobile, I guess, as well, we're talking about handhelds here. You think about trying to think of a recent one here, maybe San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, right? That's on mobile now. It's on iPads, it's on iPhones. I've got it downloaded on both devices. And it's just, yeah, you're right. It's just not the same. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's nice to have it. I'm just one of those. I cannot play and enjoy a mobile device game with that virtual thumbstick, whatever the case may be. I know there's attachments and grips and other things out there to make it more enjoyable, but I'm just not one of those people. I can do it.
I'm the same. I'm
Yeah,
absolutely the same.
just not for us, I guess. So who knows? Maybe the world changes. 5-10 years from now, we're both sitting here with our phones in front of us, only playing, Candy Crush and Clash of Clans and all kinds of other things.
A few other things going on in the world at the minute. Have you been following the comments that have been made about the Avengers game by Square Enix?
Oh, yes, indeed. That's a massive financial loss there, isn't it?
That's the story. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyone that doesn't know about this game, I'm sure you've seen it. Square Enix done an Avengers game, but what I would say the mistake and the misstep that they made was going for this live service, this game as a service, where it's
we're just not ready for that.
You play through the story, and then you're expected to play the same levels and then fight the same bosses over and over again, to get better loot so that you can fight the same bosses over and over again to get better loot, and so on and so forth. Um, there are certain games on the market that have nailed that and have a massive community. Stuff like the Division. I was going to say the Division, but the Division is one of them. But Destiny,
yeah.
Destiny's the big one, you know. And to go up against something like that is crazy. It's like back when you used to get loads of companies putting together, you know, massively multiplayer online role playing games to go against Warcraft, and it's just like they're the big boys. They're taking the money. You're not getting any of this money.
Right.
And I think a lot of companies have seen the sort of the money that stuff like Destiny's pulling in with their constant microtransactions and updates and whatnot, and they want a slice of that pie. And they thought they could do it with a big franchise IP like Marvel's Avengers. And it flopped.
And what bigger one could you do it with, right? I mean, what other IPs out there as big as Marvel's Avengers?
Right,
I mean,
now,
you got Star
right
Wars,
now in the
some
world,
others.
I would say that Marvel is probably on par with Star Wars at the minute.
Yeah.
If not now, soon, unless Star Wars makes some sort of a comeback after the previous trilogy they put out. I know it was financially a massive success, but fans didn't particularly like it.
Yeah, not winning over a lot of diehards with those series. Yeah, that's for sure.
But they've come out and they've admitted that this game has not recouped the costs that that it took.
How much was it? Do you recall? Because I remember, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it was tremendous. Like multi-millions of dollars.
And I personally don't like those style of games. I'm happy that they exist, and if people enjoy them, all more power to you. But I hate the idea that there's people sitting in a boardroom taking, concepts and games that I would like and saying, turn this into game as a service, because if we do that, we're going to rake in the money. I don't want the next Mass Effect to be a game as a service. I don't want the next BioShock to be a game as a service. I don't want, well, they already done it with Fallout, and look how that turned out.
And by the way, real quick, I just had to look that up because that was going to bother me with getting the number right on that. So Square Enix has lost $63 million on the Marvel's Avengers game that just came out. Now, that's insane.
I don't wish any ill will on any developer, but there's a part of me that's glad to see this fail, because I don't want this to be the next trend. I don't want every game to go down this path of being a game as a service and to try and lock us in and just play the same game. I like playing a game for 20, 40, 60 hours, seeing the credits roll and go, done. Another game off the list. What are we playing next? But with games like Destiny and Division, you just play and you play those games. There's no end game. There's no credits. Well, there is credits in the game, but you know what I mean? That's not the end of the game. I remember way at the start when the first Destiny was announced, the developers came out and they said, when you finish the game, that's when it starts. That's the beginning of your journey.
Bungie was all over that. Yeah.
So yeah, I just don't want that to be a thing. So I think there's a lesson to be learned here. I think Square Enix have learned a massive lesson, and I'd like to think that other publishers and other developers are looking at them and going, maybe that's not the road we should be going down. Maybe we should just try and make quality single player games or quality multiplayer games and not necessarily chase this live service dollar,
Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that impacts their future games too. I mean, you'd imagine that kind of budget loss is just, that's going to take some recuperating to some extent, right?
Absolutely. Sure.
Whether that comes from other games or, losses or unfortunately jobs, whatever it looks like. I mean, you got to recuperate that kind of cash flow somehow. Speaking of money, by the way, real quick, did you see Travis Scott? I just saw this today. Travis Scott Fortnite concert, right? That huge Fortnite concert from, a few months ago, whatever it's been now. Where, he just exploded onto the screen and they had that live concert in game of Travis Scott doing his thing. Do you remember that?
I did not follow this.
No, it was incredible. I'll say I was blown away by it. It was that little concert. Again, they'd had it on Fortnite. You were playing the game and they kind of staged it up and everything. We're at a certain date and time. They'd have it. Nobody knew what it would look like. And then boom, rapper just explodes onto the map. He's like 1,000 feet tall. There's all these crazy cool special effects going on in the game for everybody at the same time. If you even just like YouTube the Travis Scott Fortnite concert, and again, I'm not the biggest Fortnite fan in the world. I've already run my hours with that game, but it still was a cool concept. It looked amazing. I thought like if they could do more stuff like that with other bands and stuff in the games, that would be incredible. I mean, I'm not even a huge Travis Scott fan, but I was just blown away by the production on this thing for being in a video game. And they just come out today and said that he ended up making a little over $20 million off of that concert in Fortnite, which is insane to think about, you know, what kind of options that blows open for the future. So
see, that terrifies me.
I know, right? Like you might just be exploiting games for concerts at this point.
I mean,
Jeez.
to me, that's Metallica sitting there going, do we go on tour? Do we spend 3 months on tour living in a coach?
You're afraid of them not going around and playing the venues, right? You don't want them to go.
Or do we just do one Fortnite show and that's us done, and that makes £20 million, and we don't have to tour for 3 years? You know,
right? Exactly. Yeah.
I don't want the music scene to be that. Now, obviously, it's not going to happen with every single band because not every band can play Fortnite. Not every band's big enough. It would have to be bands like Metallica and maybe someone like Avenged Sevenfold, that scale of band. But
oh yeah,
that sounds to me like something that's unhealthy for music in general. But that's maybe not taking into account the fact that we're living in a pandemic. So
yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what other bands follow up on their artists, follow that route and say, hey, that's something I want to try too. If we can make $20 million doing it, I mean, doubt that ever happens again, but
so I'll let it fly for now. And I'm sure that Travis Scott's sitting watching this going, Wayne says it's okay. That's
I can take my $20 million and be happy now. Wayne on Game Savers said it was all right.
Yeah. I was worried he wasn't going to approve. You know?
Oh man. Yeah. World of Warcraft Shadowlands just came out here recently. I haven't had a chance to touch that just yet, but I do plan to get right back into World of Warcraft and pick that up because I've heard that so many mixed opinions on this expansion, that there's so many at this point, and I can't believe this game is still going strong after all these years. But might be hopping on there to see what that's about. What else we got in the gaming world?
Red Dead Redemption 2 is launching its online portion as a standalone game. Now, I don't know about you, but I dipped into that and just thought this isn't very good and never touched it again. Now, I admit I wasn't a fan of GTA Online either. I found it chaotic, to be honest.
To say the least.
Trying to play it with friends, we had an absolute nightmare. It just kept bouncing us out and throwing us in with different people. But if anyone is interested, if they're wanting to play Red Dead Redemption 2 online, but never bought the full game and aren't interested in the single player aspect of it, don't know why you wouldn't be. I think it's 75% off initially, so
it's really cheap.
It's real cheap. You can get it for like £5 or $5 whenever it launches. So it's one of those things that even if you're just curious, you can have a pop at it. There's sort of single player content in it. There's like quests and missions you can go on. So I was half tempted to just buy it just for those, and have a couple of nights of co-op fun, just doing a few of the quests and stuff.
Right. Who doesn't want to ride horses with the boys and do side quests?
I wasn't a fan of Red Dead Redemption 2. I thought the story was incredibly tedious. There's a review by a guy called Nakey Jakey. Look that up, and it's everything that I think's wrong with the game. I think he absolutely nails it in that review. But I guess that's another story.
I beg to differ, but fair enough. So on that, go ahead.
There's an interesting one here. IO Interactive, the guys that make the Hitman games, are going to be making a James Bond game. Is that something that excites or interests you at all?
I'm 50-50 on that because I do love the Hitman series, and I know we've got a member of the Game Savers family that does love Hitman, Mr. Liam, if you're listening. That it's kind of, to me, Hitman has always been, I'm not going to call it a ripoff or a knockoff of Splinter Cell, but it's definitely a lower tier to me, to a lot of Tom Clancy games that I'd really love and enjoy. Yeah. So It's not a bad game by any means, just not my cup of tea, especially with the newest one, the way they've structured, the paid premium and this, that, and the other for it. It's just not my cup of tea. So not a bad thing, but could be good. I wouldn't mind getting some GoldenEye 64 back in the world for local co-op. Hey,
yeah, the Hitman games I always thought were like this is pure stealth. This is hardcore stealth games. If you're into sneaky games, this is your business. I'm not 100% into that type of game, but I like a bit of it. I think some of it can be fun. I think a James Bond game might be a good balance between big action set pieces and then a bit of sneaky espionage. So yeah. I'm thinking it might be more up my street than the Hitman games. And it's definitely one to watch out for. Definitely keen to see how that plays out. I think as soon as we get the first trailer, I don't think it's going to be one of those games where we go, I don't know, I'm not sure. I think as soon as we get the first trailer, I'll know, yes, I want to play that, or no, I don't. one thing I would love them to not base it off the I was going to say Craig David. What do you call the guy that acts as Daniel Craig?
Oh yeah.
I'd like them to not base it off the Daniel Craig movies, because I just find they're a little bit too serious, a little bit too just not fun. Like the old James Bond movies were a load of fun. So if they could incorporate a little bit of that old fashioned James Bond into it, I think that could really, really work.
James Bond. Hey, Animal Crossing, by the way, this just hit my head because it's snowing outside here in New York. As you saw from that photo I sent earlier today, it's absolutely freezing here right now. But Animal Crossing has got a winter update coming out. Have you been firing that up lately? Because I know a lot of us have been playing that on and off, and
I've never played an Animal Crossing game in my life, and it doesn't appeal to me one bit.
How dare you? Well, anyway, I'll say I've enjoyed the winter update so far. I mean, it hasn't come out, so I should say fall update. Sorry, but that game basically updates. There's more stuff that comes out between seasons, but I love how that game world completely changes between seasons. It's not much. It's a lot of cosmetics, if anything else, but it's just enough to keep you coming back to this game. And I was just thinking about that as I saw the snowfall in here in New York and thought, man, I wish some more games would do that. But you were just talking about TV stuff before I went off on that tangent. So speaking of TV, Last of Us, Assassin's Creed, Resident Evil, a lot of other big video game titles have been announced as coming to TV in some way, shape, or form. I think Last of Us is coming to HBO, it sounds like. Assassin's Creed being Netflix, Resident Evil, Netflix. I mean, holy shit. We've got The Witcher just came to Netflix. Like, all these adaptions are happening seemingly all at once. Hell yeah, brother. Giveth us what we ask for, please, and let it be good. I know as gamers, we're always skeptical too, right?
We have to be cautious. We have to be cautious about these things. Now,
we have to remain calm, ladies and gentlemen, please.
We covered the Resident Evil stuff because I went into detail as to, I think there's two different series in the movie. I can't even remember now. Assassin's Creed, they said they're making multiple series of Assassin's Creed.
Does that mean multiple characters? Is that an Ezio, an Altair, maybe some of the more recent ones? Like, I mean,
if it could be anything, but let's just speculate for the fun of speculating. The three most recent games was Greece, Egypt, and Norse. Maybe they're doing 3 series that kind of tie in with those 3 things.
That would be cool, and somehow ties into the Animus, which is completely useless in the game, but whatever.
It is. It's almost the worst aspect of the story, but at the same time, the most fundamental and important aspect of Assassin's Creed. Oh God! Don't start me on Assassin's Creed, honest.
There's no. You go down that Animus conversation, and that is needed.
A real love-hate relationship with Assassin's Creed. I really do.
It's come up a few times on this pod.
multiple TV series. To me, that's a red flag right off the bat. I mean, do one series, see how it goes, do a standalone story, not season 1, which ends in a cliffhanger and then it gets cancelled and we never know what happens next. Just write a single standalone story over 10 episodes, put that out. If it's good, maybe do a season 2 and a spin-off. But the idea of just straight out the gates with multiple series covering multiple timelines or
That could
whatever it
put
is
a
they're
lot of
doing,
people off. Yeah.
I just think no, it's already got me on the back foot.
Yeah, I've always been a fan, and maybe that's just the old school in me of that format of not too old school, but I think of like The Walking Dead, where I've completely fallen off that show here in the last few seasons. But you think of season 1, where it put out that first pilot season, and you had 6 episodes. That's all you had, and then became a huge success. As for afterward, the rest. I love that format because it gives me just enough to say like, okay, is this worth investing in and adding to my watch list and coming back in the future? Because there's competition now. Like this isn't 10 years ago where you could just really go out there and you're kind of stuck with a few shows, some big series on big channels. Everybody's got something huge right now that's worth pulling your time for. And it really is a competitive atmosphere at this point in time between Hulu, Netflix, Apple TV, what's already out there on cable, HBO Max. I mean, so much, right? There's a million things.
Yeah. And it's completely non-interactive, which has always been my problem. So it's just sitting there like a couch potato watching something. Give me a video game. Put a controller in my hand and give me a video game.
Please. That'll be interesting to see. I wonder if that Last of Us one is going to be, I mean, honestly, I think The Last of Us is so good. They could go either way with this one. They could gear this towards the gamers and give us some background and lore and other character stories that we haven't seen before. Or they can make this for people on HBO that have never seen or heard of The Last of Us video game. If you live under a fucking rock out there or something.
Yeah. I mean,
and just give us something that's totally different, right?
The Last of Us 2 really does lend itself to a TV show or a movie. It's cinematic. It's got great characters. It's got great world building. It's set up a world where you could tell a lot of different stories within it. But from what I have read, they do want to retell the story of Joel and Ellie within a TV series.
I'm happy about that. And that works.
I personally, there's a quote from a movie called Memento, and the guy says, the most interesting thing about reading a book is not knowing what's happening next. And if they just retell the story of Joel and Ellie in TV series, I know what's going to happen.
Right.
I don't see the point. I see the point in maybe taking those stories and telling those stories to an audience who haven't played the games and so don't know the story.
Right.
But if you already know that story, if you know everything that happens to them, it just feels a bit redundant to me.
Yeah.
And personally, I mean, I would watch it because I love those 2 games. I think they're incredibly, brilliantly crafted games in almost every respect. So I would watch it as a fan of the games, but I wouldn't be excited for it. I really wouldn't,
Yeah, I can feel that and see that a little bit. I guess, it couldn't be a bad thing to put something out there for people that have never heard or seen The Last of Us video game that are just now seeing that TV series for the first time and going, what the hell? There's a video game for this? Can I go out and buy this, play this? And if that brings more people to Sony, and maybe that's a marketing tool at that point, great. Bring more people into the gaming community because, hey, we're all about that life. So you're right. That'll be interesting to see. Geez, there's so many ways those TV shows, movies, and things like that can go.
If you could pick one thing and have a TV show built for it, what would you go for?
God damn it! Why would you ask me that?
I'm just asking that straight off the bat. This is completely unprepared. The reason I ask is because I personally would love to see like in the style of, did you watch Castlevania or Godzilla on Netflix? Yep. Sort of the short animated shows with just a few episodes. Okay, that. Except it's cyberpunk, and we get extra stories and extra background, and we learn more about the world of cyberpunk.
This game isn't even out yet. See how big this hype is now? You're already talking about a goddamn TV show.
I'm already sold. I'm reading books and learning about the different manufacturers of guns and the collapse and all the history and stuff. And I am so into this game. And as you say, we haven't even touched it. We haven't even got hands on yet. Yeah, give me
cyberpunk then.
So yeah, give me a cyberpunk TV show. Right now.
Okay. Let's hope. Let's see what happens after they've already had The Witcher adapt over from CG Projekt Red into Netflix.
That's true. So they're open to it. But I do think it would lend itself to like an animated or a CGI type show.
Okay.
I think you could do more with it, and you'd have less budget restraints. Because I don't think anyone would deny that The Witcher whether you liked it or not, I don't think anyone would deny that The Witcher suffered from budgetary constraints. I mean, you play that game, he's a monster slayer.
Right.
And he didn't really slay too many monsters in that TV series.
They weren't the best looking either all the time.
Yeah.
It was still good, but not mind blowing. I guess if I had to pick a TV show, I mean, oh God, like I'd wish I'd prepped for that. I'd say there'd be two. I'd say the first one for me would be something in the StarCraft universe from PC. I really like TV shows that had multiple engaging storylines going at one time. I love shows like Vikings or Game of Thrones when it was around, because you had so many different stories and little intricacies you could follow that all kind of came together in some aspect, shape, or form. StarCraft, you've got 3 factions. You've got Protoss, Terran, and Zerg. All those come together and can do something cool, I'd imagine. But if I had to pick a big and well-known one, Halo. And I know there's been talk of one coming for, it seems like fucking years now at this point, which is, I've just given up on it. But having a Halo TV show, we've already had some animated movies, I think, too, to some extent.
Didn't we have a live action Halo TV show, Forward Until Dawn?
Oh yeah, you're right. Damn, I forgot all about that. But honestly, that was fucking garbage. So I'm not counting it. I mean, it wasn't. I shouldn't say it was garbage, but it was fucking garbage. All right, I'm gonna retract that statement twice there. That was an absolutely garbage show. And again, maybe it was just me not being able to get into it, but we've already forgotten about it. As I'd say, as a huge Halo fan, I've forgotten about it, or I'm not a huge Halo fan. I don't know which one is true there, but. It's amazing you were able to remember that, because I'd completely forgotten that even existed years ago at this point. But I think a full-blown AAA major production Halo television show would definitely be something to hopefully bring the Microsoft crowd back together, because, hey, you know what? Sony's getting The Last of Us on HBO. Microsoft, what's your answer? Come on, television. If that's the future of marketing tools for gaming, then you better get in there, goddammit. What's going on out there?
Fallout 76 had an expansion that was due, I believe, next week, and they accidentally released it.
Yeah.
It's called Steel Dawn, and it's basically the DLC, the extra content that introduces the Brotherhood of Steel into Fallout 76. Now, Fallout 76 just seems to be the disaster that keeps on rolling. Because first of all,
beautiful thing to witness.
They accidentally roll out the DLC, and rather than trying to pull it back, they just kind of go, "Okay, you can have it. There you go. It's out.
It's not ready, but you can have this."
But then apparently, like, there's an official Fallout timeline that, I mean, Fallout fans are like so into Fallout. And when Fallout 76 is set in the timeline, the Brotherhood of Steel they didn't exist. They weren't about, they were established a good while after the time that Fallout 76 was set. So a lot of people are going, this doesn't even make sense to have these guys in the game. You've just put them in because, well, they look cool and they're popular and people like the Brotherhood of Steel. And again, it's just another hiccup in the constant disaster that is Fallout 76. Now, that being said, if anyone had have asked me, December 2020, do you still think there's going to be content coming out for Fallout 76? I'd have said no. I would have thought that it would have went the way of Anthem, that it would have just trickled off and died a death. But there is content coming out for Fallout 76, so I think people have to be playing it. They must be playing it, and Bethesda haven't given up on it. So there's a wee part of me that's like, give it a go, just try it again. Have another crack at Fallout 76. And I know that it's going to be a waste of time. And 4 hours later, I'm going to go, why am I playing this dumpster of a game?
Don't put yourself through that.
But yeah, I don't think they've turned it around. I don't think they ever turned it around in the same way that something like No Man's Sky was turned into such a well-received game after a horrible launch. But I don't think Fallout 76 has necessarily been the failure that everyone has written it up to be.
What would you say is Bethesda's redemption at this point? Because now they're not a total failure of a company, obviously, because they've got some, good stuff coming in the future with ZeniMax. They're under Microsoft's umbrella now. You've got Elder Scrolls, Fallout, Dishonored, Doom, Wolfenstein, many others that these guys could do. What do you think is their big redemption piece? Because they've gotten a lot of flack here recently. I mean, I guess you could say for years now for just releasing unprepared console buggy games that, don't work at launch. You could say that about a lot of companies too, Ubisoft. But what would you say is their path to redemption at that point, to getting players' trust again?
But before I answer, I think we do need to establish the difference between Bethesda, the publisher, and the Bethesda Softworks, because the publishing division put out great games. Those id games like Doom and Prey and Dishonored and stuff like that. All
yes,
top-notch, high-quality games. It's Bethesda Softworks that make Elder Scrolls and Fallout. Their next game is I always keep forgetting the name of this. I think it's Starfield.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That game needs to blow our socks off for them to have a redemption. That game just needs to come out and do things that games haven't done previously, and just set a new bar for RPGs. And I think anything other than that, they are just going to get dragged over the soil again.
Do you think they're capable of it after putting out, I'd say I'll call it a masterpiece at this point. I'd think of like Fallout series. I'd think of Elder Scrolls series. You think of Skyrim and just, I don't know, Fallout. I'm not going to say 4, but Fallout 3 in New Vegas. How do you come back from having that? And most recently putting out Fallout 76, which we all know is a disaster. How do you come back from that?
You see, I think in hindsight, we did at the time, Fallout 3 was a masterpiece and Skyrim was a masterpiece at the time. But I think we were also very, very forgiving of Bethesda. Like, those games were buggy as hell. There was a lot of things about this
Skyrim when you got hit by an ogre and it like smashed it. Like, best glitch of all time. You'd get hit by that like club hammer or whatever from that big ogre. I forgot what it's even called at this point. My God, like
I think it was just a giant.
Giant. That's right.
Yeah. I was told, I read that that's not a glitch. That's intentional.
Oh, well,
it's meant to be that if they smack you, you go pew and you go flying. Apparently, that's intentional. Don't take that with a pinch of salt. I don't know that for certain, but that's what I read. But yeah, I don't get me wrong; those games are good. Skyrim's a fantastic game, and there's the content, even just in the base game, is absolutely staggering. It's a huge game. Parts of it are beautiful, but some of it's not. Some of it's quite ugly. Some of the level design's a bit awkward. And it's still a 9 out of 10 game, but we were very forgiving on how glitchy it was. And I think we're getting to a point where other games are coming out and other developers are putting out products such as The Witcher 3, that when you play them and then you go back and you look at Fallout 3 or you look at Skyrim, you kind of go, this is actually a bit dodgy. And I think the bar's been set to a point where Bethesda can't get away with that anymore. We're not going to be forgiven. We're not going to go, ha ha ha, isn't it so funny that this game's glitchy? Isn't it so funny that my character shot across the screen? I think we're getting to a point where the standards have been set high, that if stuff like that's going to happen, they're going to go, hang on, patch this game. Can you please fix this? Because I paid, it's going to be probably $70 by the time that game comes out. I paid $70 for this. Can you just,
sir, there is a Twitter mob outside of your door right now. I need you to please these people.
I just think the landscape of video gaming has changed, and Bethesda need to step up. They need to fix whatever's wrong with that development company. I think, again, I always say this, I'm not a video game developer, but I do read a lot about these things. And their engine seems to be a major problem. It is an old video game engine that they just keep updating and updating and updating. And if you know anything about programming, if there's old code underneath it and you write old code, you write new code on top of old code, on top of it, on top of it, on top of it, you end up with all this spaghetti code that doesn't make sense. It's badly optimized. It's impossible to debug. And you just end up with an engine, which is a nightmare to code on.
Sounds like something familiar in the form of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War.
at a certain point, you need to draw a line in the sand and go, this engine just won't do. And the fact that all of Bethesda is not necessarily owned right now, but is going to be owned by Microsoft, it might open up opportunities for them to use different engines, to collaborate with different teams and to port things over into an engine, which just isn't a buggy mess anymore. So yeah, I think an answer to try and summarize my answer to your question is they need to put out Starfield. It needs to be in a decent engine. It needs to not be a buggy mess, and it needs to do something what we haven't seen before. It needs to be new and fresh. And I guess
give the people what they want. Bethesda,
always
do it.
But they won't. They'll just re-release Skyrim again for the Series X.
We're gonna get. Do you think we'll get some of these remasters that have already been remastered on the X? You think we'll get Skyrim on the goddamn PlayStation 5 and Xbox?
I honestly believe yes. So what I believe is Starfield, Microsoft are going to push them to do better than their own standards. They're going to say this needs to be better than what it is because it's probably going to be a Series X exclusive. Right. It's going to be a flagship title for Series X. Therefore, it needs to be as good as it can be. So in the meantime, in order to get some money rolling in,
Jesus Christ,
we'll see Skyrim on Series X and PS5.
No.
That's what I reckon.
I've already bought it 8 times. Please.
Skyrim Ray Tracing Edition.
I mean, I don't know how much more I can possibly play Skyrim over. Like, I mean, at this point, this might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. I mean, that's pushing it. Yeah. It's going to be interesting too with this generation. I don't think we've talked about this yet, but when is an optimal time to perform a remaster or a remake for a game? I mean, to me, I think of, for example, here, just coming off the cuff of that announcement for the new Mass Effect trilogy that's being remastered, maybe a little soon, because personally, I thought that series had graphics that were way ahead for their time, and they still hold up to a lot of games today. Yeah. I mean, sure, they could use an update and it'd be great, but I mean, is it worth the time or resources that you could put towards another game? But if it makes money, I guess, and people buy it, whatever.
I think unless it is something that fans are begging for, then I think the distance in terms of time should be 3 generations. So I don't think you should be getting a remake of a 360 game on Series X. I don't think you should be getting a remake of a PS3 game on PS5. I think that's too soon. One more generation beyond that. So an OG Xbox game really looks dated now. So yeah, remake that for the Series X, or a PS2 game will look really dated now. So remake that for the PS5.
Okay, I got you. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I think that's a reasonable time frame in order for a full remake. For a remaster, now to me that is just up the resolution, up the frame rate, higher textures, and maybe a few bells and whistles like ray tracing, particle effects, and all that goodness. Do that whenever you want.
Yeah, that'll be interesting too.
But put it out at a reasonable price. Put it out at $20 or something. Don't ask for $60 for.
Do you think people will keep charging for that? Because here on Xbox you get that free upgrade, right? PlayStation 2, where if you buy the game that's a PS4, let's just take Cyberpunk, and I hate to bring it up for the 400th time during the episode, but goddamn, I mean, think about games like that where they're made for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox PC 2. Where they're made for those consoles, but you're getting an upscaled version for free through Smart Pass and things like that, right? Where they're not charging you extra, but it's just a free upgrade. Do you think we'll see that upgrade extend back to things like 360 or Xbox One, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4?
To a degree, that's happened. Microsoft have implemented auto HDR into some 360 games. One, for example, is the Dead Space trilogy. So if you play Dead Space, just the 360 game itself, if you own it digitally or on disc for 360, and you put it into your Xbox Series X and you play it on a TV with HDR, it looks better, and that's free. And I think that stuff like that should be free. I think it should be a matter of pride of studios going to their back catalog and going, if people are still playing these games, if people are still playing those original Mass Effect games, the original BioShock games, the original Dead Space games, we should, if it is minimal work, we should be trying to make those games still look as good as we possibly can. Like I know that some games, it's literally just a matter of unlocking the frame rate. So if you have a game that was locked in at 30 frames per second on 360, you can just change that frame rate lock to 60 on the Series X, and you get a much smoother game. So Yeah, I think you're right. I don't think we should be paying for those. And the fact that a lot of people, a lot of publishers and developers are giving us those free upgrades, it makes the other ones look scummy.
Right.
Whenever someone likes what Remedy Games, they've done it with Control. We already talked about that. There's a certain version of Control on the modern consoles, and if you bought the original, you don't get the new version, even though it's a game
Right.
that came out 18 months ago, and it just makes them look like scumbags. It makes them
Yeah.
look gritty, and it's like we're smart to this. Gamers really pay attention to this stuff these days. They're
Yeah.
not sort of sitting there going, "Oh, I guess I'll just buy it again then." Well, actually, they can't do that. But
Yeah. Yeah. They'll be like, oh,
but do
these
you know
guys
what I
over
mean?
here are giving me a free upgrade. What the fuck are you charging me another $60 for?
Yeah,
Like, what is this?
there is a degree of resentment against the companies that are doing this thing, and it's not forgotten about. We do
Right.
we do hold our grudges, and
That's
rightfully so, I think.
quite true. Let's hold our
Yeah,
grudges till the next episode, shall we, and see what comes up there.
definitely.
Because you want to go ahead and take it home here. Do we have anything else on the non-existent agenda, but that the Game Savers family might like to hear about?
I don't think so. One thing I just want to say, if anyone's got this far through the podcast and you're still listening, if you ever sit and watch this podcast and you're disagreeing in your head or you're shouting out loud at the screen and you kind of want to join in the conversation, get in contact. Because we're looking for other people to come on as guests on the podcast to share your opinions. As long as you're not the sort of guy that just wants to scream PlayStation from the rafters, or sort of wants to throw himself on a sword for his Xbox. We'd definitely be keen to have you guys on.
Yeah, we've opened ourselves up recently here to collaborations. Had some good ones already. Gonna keep doing those, and you're gonna see some older members of the Game Savers family, some guests we've had previously coming back. We've got some new guests lined up for the future as well. But just to give you guys an idea of what's coming up here in the future, again, like we did at the beginning, this is going to be our last gaming news and updates episode we do for this year. So we've only got 4 or 5 weeks left in 2020. But then we've got the 2020 Game of the Year awards coming up from yours truly, Wayne, maybe a guest or two. We'll see. So surprises in there. We'll have another retro analysis episode with the game to be determined. We're open to suggestions there too. So, hey, if there's a lot of you out there that feel really strongly about hearing our opinions, which why would you want to hear that anyway? But if you're really strong about hearing our opinions on certain games from back in the day, let us know. We're open to that. Hit us up over at gamesaverschannel@gmail.com. We've also got the Call of Duty episode coming up where we're talking about jumping ship from Modern Warfare to Black Ops Cold War. Is it worth it? Is it not? Should I spend my $70? Well, join us and find out. Then we've got the 2021 gaming wish list episode. So a lot of things coming your way. We're booked for the next month. You know what's coming up. And I guess we could take a moment here, just give some shout outs and say thanks to everybody that's joined us so far. This is episode 9 of the podcast. So been going for 9 weeks strong now. We've got listeners from, it's about 15 countries right now. And I know I read those off to you the other day, Wayne. I don't have them in front of me, but to those of you that are listening to us anywhere in the world, thank you so much. We appreciate that. I wish I could say that in every single language, but again, thank you for listening to us and just hearing us ramble for the last hour. Or the last 9 episodes, if you've been here that long. So people like huge supporters like Trent, Michael, so many other people, Trevor, you guys are awesome. I appreciate your support as well. Other than that, anything else we want to throw out there, Wayne?
Not at the minute. No, all good.
All right. Well, we'll take it home then. So, everybody, thank you very much for joining us today for the Game Savers podcast. That'll wrap everything up for today. If you want to find us and this is your first time listening to us and you don't already, please give us a like, subscribe, review. Cannot stress enough how much those things help us to go a long way and reach more people. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do here. So, you can follow us on facebook.com/Gamesavers channel as well. We've also got a YouTube page. Follow us on that Facebook page, and we'll give you those updates every single week so you never miss an episode. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. We're out there. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and do not forget to save your game.